the News Talk Radio Newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. With the news at this time, I am Tiana Jordan. A very good morning to you. First, the lead stories. The CARICOM Secretariat will soon be supplying the Guyana Power and Light with extra solar-generated electricity. The Prime Minister is denying that the National COVID Task Force is ignoring certain mass-attended events that are associated with the government. And in regional news, a Trinidad and Tobago policeman has been charged with misbehavior in public office after a rifle and ammunition went missing. The Bahamas government is not in a hurry to reopen schools. And for the international news, we'll bring to you the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now the news in detail. The Caribbean Community CARICOM headquarters will soon be providing solar-generated electricity to the Guyana Power and Light, GPL. This announcement was made at the official commissioning of a 400-megawatt solar farm in the compound of the CARICOM headquarters at Liliendal, Greater Georgetown. The cost of the solar farm is $7 million and was funded by the government of Japan. CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett says the Secretariat and GPL will have to work out a formal agreement.
This PV power generation system is expected to generate more electricity than is required by the Secretariat for its operation on an annual basis. And the expectation is that the available excess energy would feed into the utility grid during its off-peak operation periods. The Secretariat is seeking to conclude the arrangements which will attend the bidirectional flow of electricity with GPL in this quarter.
CARICOM Deputy Secretary General Dr. Armstrong Alexis says the solar energy electricity generation project will be used as a model for renewable energy.
The CARICOM Secretariat considers itself fortunate to be the recipient of such an elaborate infrastructure that will lead towards the reduction in the amount of CO2 emissions produced in the region. As we work towards reducing our carbon footprint, the outcome of this project will also strengthen our case in the international community, as we will have the results of this project as evidence that we can present on our contribution to achieving energy efficiency in the Caribbean.
CARICOM Deputy Secretary General Dr. Armstrong Alexis. Prime Minister Mark Phillips on Tuesday afternoon fended off criticisms that the government has been turning a blind eye to mass gathering events with connections to the administration. Several days ago, the Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgell, and Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Charles Ramson, were at the overcrowded National Sports Hall for the futsal football game. The Prime Minister says the National COVID-19 Task Force can impose sanctions on the organizers of the football game. Importantly, he did not say that the organizers of the futsal game will be punished.
No, the government did not turn a blind eye. The government granted approval for these activities with the understanding that the organizers, will follow the established protocols. If you go and see anyone in the correspondence granting approval, It speaks about approval being granted and the need to follow the protocols. Right?
Failing which?
Failing which, we will act, which can involve sanctions.
Are you going to impose sanctions on the organizers?
Failing which, we will act, which can involve sanctions.
Prime Minister Phillips says the government is committed to investigating and taking reports of all breaches of the COVID-19 protocols. President Irfan Ali says that no politician will be placed on the board of the Natural Resource Fund. He made known his concerns even as the opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, APNU plus AFC, has called for greater civil society oversight. The coalition has also voiced concern that the new Natural Resources Fund Act now provides for the president to handpick and appoint most of the board of directors. But the president says that no politicians will be appointed to the board.
The board will be free of politicians. Politicians are not only in the government. Since when politicians are only in the government? This is a board that will be representative of Guyana with certain specific skill set, and you will see that.
How soon the board will be appointed?
You will be shocked how soon.
The government has reduced the Oversight Committee from 22 to 9, something that the opposition coalition has vehemently opposed. The coalition is also worried that the formula for withdrawing the oil money from the fund opens the door for squandermania and corruption. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says fixed vaccination sites are being established on the coast. He says that mobile vaccination sites will be roving around the interior locations.
Still a lot of people who have not come forward to get their vaccines. So we have taken a decision where we're going to have fixed sites in all the regions so people know these sites are there. They can come anytime and get their vaccines there. And in addition to that, for some of the more challenging regions, geographically challenging regions, that in those regions we'll continue to have mobile teams. But on the coast here, we think it's important that we put fixed sites and publicize where those sites are so that people can come to them.
The health minister says so far the response to the fixed vaccination sites has been going well, with 3,225 persons getting vaccinated. Latest official statistics show that 18,982 persons have taken booster vaccines. And now for the regional news. A Trinidad and Tobago policeman who misplaced a rifle has been charged with 2 counts of misbehavior in public office. Trinidad Newsday reports that Sergeant Hector Kwashi has since been granted more than $30,000 bail by a justice of the peace. The first charge alleged he misbehaved in public office by willfully neglecting or failing to secure the rifle, which was fitted with 2 magazines. The second charge alleges that he misbehaved in public office by willfully neglecting or failing to secure 70 rounds of 5.56 ammunition, all issued to the police service, being the property of the Trinidad and Tobago government. Kwashi is expected to reappear virtually in the Port of Spain Magistrates Court on February 10th. A sergeant, a corporal, and 8 constables of the San Juan Substation Task Force were detained by Professional Standards Bureau officers. It was reported that on Christmas Eve, an officer was said to have left the weapon with 2 magazines. On returning sometime later, he found them missing. Barbadians are not fully prepared for retirement. Central Bank of Barbados economist Lisa Braffett Phillips says this suggests insufficient financial knowledge among the young and old. This was revealed in a new study examining the link between financial knowledge and retirement planning. The researcher observed that knowledge of basic financial products and concepts were reasonably observed. However, Barbados Nation also quotes her as saying that many individuals surveyed lacked an understanding of more sophisticated concepts and products. She concluded, following an online survey of 170 respondents, that financial knowledge was found to have a positive impact on the level of retirement planning in Barbados. 3 British Virgin Islands citizens are now facing the possibility of life in prison in the U.S. Virgin Islands, USVI, for more than 6,000 kilograms of coke. Sorry, I'll read that again. 3 British Virgin Islands citizens are now facing the possibility of life in prison in the U.S. Virgin Islands, USVI, for more than 600 kilograms of cocaine. Prosecutors say that the narcotic was allegedly found in the vessel on which they were traveling. The U.S. Attorney's Office District of the Virgin Islands says the 3 BV Islanders were apprehended with a 4th person, a citizen of the Dominican Republic. They were charged with illegal possession of cocaine with intent to distribute after the vessel was apprehended by USVI law enforcement off the shores of St. Croix. U.S. says the 32-foot-long vessel was intercepted on January 9th. Those before the court are the captain of the vessel, British Virgin Islands resident Shannon John, passengers Sean John and Emmanuel Tolentino Lebron, both also from the BVI, and Augusto Rodriguez Molina, a citizen of the Dominican Republic. Federal authorities say approximately 667 kilograms of cocaine were packaged in approximately 20 block-shaped bales on board. Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis, says his government is still aiming to reopen schools for face-to-face learning within 2 weeks. At the same time, he says the decision will ultimately depend partly on advice from health officials. The Bahamian leader says that schools have been closed because there are no vaccines for children. Mr. Davis toured several schools on the renovation on Monday with Education Minister Glenys Hanna Martin and Works Minister Alfred Sayers. Officials had planned to reopen public schools in the second week of January with a hybrid model involving face-to-face instruction. However, in late December, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville said the resumption of face-to-face learning in public schools had been postponed by at least 2 weeks as officials grappled with the 4th wave of COVID-19. The Ministry of Education later said all public and private schools could only reopen this month on a fully virtual basis. This does not apply to daycare centers. The ministry said this decision would be revisited within 14 days, at which time a further assessment will be conducted in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. And now for the international news, here's the latest bulletin coming from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. NATO and Russia have started their first face-to-face talks in 2 years as they try to reduce tension over Russian troop deployments on the Ukrainian border. Ahead of the meeting, NATO members again stressed that they would not accept Russia's main demands. Caroline Davis is in Moscow.
Russia's been relatively clear from last year about exactly what it wanted to come out of these talks. It published in December some draft treaties which was suggesting to the US and one to NATO. And in those draft treaties, they stated very clearly that they wanted a guarantee of NATO's halt with eastern expansion, and they wanted to rule out Ukraine's membership of NATO as well. Now, neither of those points are going to get them very far with a NATO discussion today. NATO have been very clear that it's not for a third party to get involved and say whether or not another country can be able to join and make a treaty with NATO.
Novak Djokovic has admitted that he made a mistake on a travel declaration completed before he arrived in Australia. The tennis star incorrectly said he hadn't travelled to any other country in the 2 weeks before flying to Melbourne. The Serb also apologised for meeting a journalist in December when he had COVID. Guy Delaunay is in Belgrade.
It's been running in all the Serbian media. They've been publishing what he said. It's framed as a way of Novak Djokovic addressing misinformation that has been circulating about his actions. But there hasn't really been an awful lot of criticism. It's still a case that people in Australia, or maybe even the world in general, are out to get Novak Djokovic. That's very much the narrative in the Serbian media. They're not ready to take down their hero just yet.
The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will come under pressure in Parliament later to state whether he broke his own COVID rules, with some of his own MPs calling for him to stand down. So far, Mr Johnson has declined to say whether he attended a party at his Downing Street residence during a coronavirus lockdown. The BBC's Adam Fleming says today's Prime Minister's questions will not only be important for Mr Johnson.
It'll be important for the public who were making sacrifices in May 2020 that they may feel were not being reciprocated at the heart of government. It'll be important for the opposition parties because they've really upped the rhetoric and the pressure on Boris Johnson about whether he is fit to serve as Prime Minister. And it'll be really important for the Prime Minister's own party, the Conservatives. At the very least, a lot of his members of Parliament would like an explanation from him about what happened. Some people would quite like an apology too.
A bomb has exploded in the Somali capital Mogadishu, with reports that several people were killed. The blast took place on a road by the entrance to a camp for the Somali Air Force, which is close to the international airport. It's not yet clear who is behind the attack. World news from the BBC. More than 80 fact-checking organisations from around the world have accused the video platform YouTube of being one of the main global conduits of online disinformation and misinformation. In an open letter to YouTube CEO, the global group, including Kenya's Africa Check and the Washington Post, called on the Google-owned platform to do more to tackle fake news. Here's Warren Ball.
They say YouTube is allowing its platform to be weaponised, as they put it, by unscrupulous actors intent on manipulating and exploiting others. They recommend providing better context to videos and, in particular, doing more to stop false information in non-English language content with the help of non-partisan fact-checking organisations. A spokesperson for YouTube said the company had already made great efforts to reduce misinformation on its platform, and that fact-checking was just one of the tools used to address the problem.
Hong Kong's leader has said the territory will introduce its own national security legislation to complement a similar law imposed by Beijing 2 years ago. Carrie Lam made the commitment at the first session of Hong Kong's legislature since elections last month. New research has found that women who breastfeed are less likely to develop heart disease, have a stroke, or die from cardiovascular disease than women who do not. Scientists in Austria say breastfeeding for 12 months or longer reduces the risk of developing these diseases. A prominent Indian actor, Siddharth, has apologised for what he called a rude joke about a female badminton champion, Saina Nehwal, which triggered social media outrage. It centred on an incident last week when India's Prime Minister was trapped on a flyover in Punjab because of a protest by farmers. Ms Nawal, a supporter of Narendra Modi, called it a cowardly attack by anarchists. The actor responded sarcastically with a crude sexual innuendo. BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return-to-work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, with results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now to end the news, here is a recap of the leads. The CARICOM Secretariat will soon be supplying the Guyana Power and Light with extra solar-generated electricity. The Prime Minister is denying that the National COVID Task Force is ignoring certain mass-attended events that are associated with the government. And in regional news, a Trinidad and Tobago policeman has been charged with misbehavior in a public office after a rifle and ammunition went missing. The Bahamas government is not in a hurry to reopen schools. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.